off, I just want to say I am super excited to be here this morning because I missed you guys so much. It's not even funny. Because 3 months was a really long time. I have only been away from home for a week at a time, and usually my parents are, it's camps and stuff, and they're with me. So it was a little bit long, but it was good. It was so good. Okay, so I wanted to show you a little bit. I talked before I left, but it was very much a, hey, send me money so I can go, and this is a little bit of what I'm doing, and I didn't really get to kind of go into detail about what exactly I would be doing, nor did I really know half the things I was going to do. So this is kind of a visual of where I was. So up here is China, and then here's Burma / Myanmar, and then Thailand. I was in the northern part of Thailand for most of my trip. For a week, I traveled 6 hours by bus south to this city called Mae Sot, which is, and I stayed at a school with the Scots, and it's about 20 minutes from the Burmese border, the school is, and so, and I'll go into a lot more detail about that later, but, so why did I go? Initially, so the Schellenbargers, Jesse and his family, they live in Gladwin, and Jesse is a missionary in China, and he married a Mukadam, she's Uzbek, and have a little baby girl, and they asked me to come and babysit for them for 3 months. And then, aside from that, I kind of planned this to be a little bit of a vision trip for myself. So eventually I would like to be a missionary in Burma in some kind of way, shape, or form. Whether, I don't know exactly how it's going to look right now, but part of that is, so I know I want to be a missionary, but what does that mean for me personally? Missionary is a super broad term, because there's so many different things that you could do. So it was really cool. My entire education plan kind of changed as soon as I got there. I was going to go into the nursing program. Now I'm going to do medical assistant at this point, but things are still changing. So still figuring out what exactly it is that God is actually wanting me to do, especially right now while I'm in the States. And then I babysat for Emirates most mornings during the week. So this is Jesse Mukadam in Emirates. So they've been living in Thailand for 6 months, or 7 months now. So she just turned 2 January 1st, and oh, she's so cute. We hit it off really fast. It was having a little baby sister in this strange land with me, so it was super fun. They took such good care of me. They're the best hosts I could have asked for. Every night they had me come over for dinner and introduced me to their whole team, who kind of befriended me too, and so it was awesome. So a lot of you stayed up to date with some of the things that were happening through Facebook, which was super awesome. I loved being able to kind of communicate with you guys on a weekly basis. For the most part, those of you that I emailed, I'm so sorry, I'm really bad at the email thing. But I even got a few scolds from people for being a little bit on the adventurous side and doing things maybe that were a little sketchy, but it's okay, I'm here, it's fine. I don't like this. It's falling off my face.
I know, you broke it just before.
I didn't know Grandpa broke it. Grandpa, you broke this.
Sure I did.
Just kidding. Okay, so I'm gonna try to stay on track because if I don't have notes, I probably could stand up here for 2 hours and talk about my trip. So I'm talking about when I first got there. So I have never really ridden on a plane, okay? Except for when I was 4, I went to Florida with my family, and all I remember is getting really sick, and my mom gave me some bubble gum. I don't even remember if we took a plane back or not. And so, I was just so scared. I got to the airport and I'm sweating, and so I get through all my flights, and I show up in Chiang Mai, and me and Jesse have had a lot of conversations so far. He's like, okay, don't talk very much. I'm like, what? I like to talk a lot. I want to tell I met so many people on the plane, and I like gave them my entire life story within however long it was that we were talking. And it didn't take me long. So I'm like, he's like, you're gonna go up to the immigration officer, and he's gonna ask you why you're gonna be in his country, and you have to like two words. I'm like, 2 words? I want to tell him everything. I'm like, I'm gonna be a missionary. I'm gonna take care of this baby while I'm in this country, and it's just gonna be so fun, and I'm so excited. And he's like, no, you can't do that. That's bad. I'm like, okay, so I'm like in line for immigration. I'm like practicing my 2 words over and over in my head. I'm a tourist. I'm not a tourist. That was the most irritating. I was on a tourist visa. I'm like, I am not a tourist. I am here. I'm here to like figure out what it is that God wants me to do, and I'm going to help this missionary family. It's going to be so awesome. I am not a tourist. It was like almost offensive, but yeah. And so,
That's
but
my girl.
but on the side of that, like. In all reality, I kind of was a tourist. I'm coming to this foreign country. I sat back and was observing a lot of like these missionaries do their job, and like talking with them on a daily basis. Like, okay, why do you do what you do? What have you done in the past? What are the scariest things you've ever done? The weirdest foods you've ever eaten? But then Jesse and Mukadam were super awesome in letting me experience. Am I clicking this? Oh, okay. Okay, so they let me see so many different things. I went to church in a safari. So you drive in and you park, and over here are some giraffes waiting for you to come and feed them. And I'm like, what? This is not a thing where I come from. It's so cool. And it took me a long time to get over that. And then I ate so many different foods. I had horse meat. I'm sorry for horse lovers. I mean, I'm a horse lover too, but it was in a different country. It's okay. And so I got to ride my bike so many different places. I got lost for 4 hours. That was super fun. I made it back, so it ended up being fun. I was a little freaky in the moment, but I climbed mountains. I went up to Doi Sutep, was one of the mountains there. It's the second highest mountain in Chiang Mai. And there's this huge temple on top, and it was the detail that they put into these temples is like, what? How? I do not have that kind of patience. And then I was able to participate in a festival on Loy Krathong, and there was a little boy that lived on my road, and her babysitter was Thai. And she and her daughter were going to Loy Krathong, and none of the missionaries that I knew were going to go, and so I was like, can I come with you? I know we don't speak the same language and we barely understand each other, but I would really like to kind of see what this is all about. So they let me come with them, and we talked a little bit before, like, you know, I have these very specific, I believe in this and whatever, so I'm not going to pray with you guys, but I would like to participate in as much as I can, as much as I feel comfortable and stuff. And they were so cool with it, I couldn't even believe how awesome they were. I keep touching this. Oh, okay. So I got to experience that. They put these flowers in these boats, and they light the candles and they pray over it, and so I just smiled during that part. And I put it in the river, and they were it's really awesome actually how sincere they were with what they were doing. It's it wasn't to anything that I believed in, but at the same time wow, this is awesome. They are so devoted to their God. Why I feel I'm as a Christian, why am I not this outward in my faith? And sometimes, and it's so it was really cool to see them be okay, in some ways, yes, I don't believe what they're doing is true, but in other ways, I'm I want to live as a Christian kind of like they live, where it's so out there with my faith. So coffee, oh my goodness. Chiang Mai is the capital of coffee in Thailand. There is seriously, you can walk down the street and there's a coffee shop every few yards. They're everywhere, and it's not Starbucks. We get a cappuccino and it's super, super sweet, and it's no coffee. No, this is coffee. It is strong. I was so in my element. It was so great. I was never lacking any coffee. I probably had a little too much, but
The effects are still evident.
So I went during the rainy season. Okay, so like 2 months of my stay is in the pouring rain. It was awesome. There were a few times that I went out on my bike to get some groceries down at the market down the road, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this just like pouring rain comes out, and I show up at Jesse and Luke Don's. I'm like, can I have a towel? It's a little wet. So it was really cool to see how, like, I was in the tropics. It was like, this is crazy. Okay. And then I also got to see some waterfalls. Those were super neat. I climbed up one with the Scots, and that was a little bit on the scary side, but it was pretty cool. And I also got the opportunity to eat a few strange things. I said the horse meat before, and crickets. So they have this thing called night market, right? And it's kind of actually, it's not really traditionally a Thai thing. They kind of made it for the tourists, but it was fun. And so they like block off a whole section of a really big street. And on either side, they set up all these tents. And they sell food and clothes, homemade things, not homemade things. And so I saw these crickets. I'm like, Chiang Mai is a pretty tourist-friendly place. Like, there's not too many scary things. Jesse and Mukadam, I think, ordered like pig intestines on their date one time on accident. So like that might happen every once in a while. But overall, you don't really order things that are too scary. So I'm like, crickets, oh my gosh, or grasshoppers. I'm like, no way, I have to have one. Like, I can't leave without eating one. I have to be able to say that I did it. So, Mukadam's like, oh, this is disgusting. Like, she comes from Uzbekistan, she's like, you're disgusting. And she's like, okay, let me videotape this. So I had a hard time, like, getting it to go to my mouth, but as soon as I get there, it was good. It was so good. Like, just tastes like seasonings, right? So then I'm, like, walking through the night market with my bag of grasshoppers, just, like, snacking on them. And so, it was fine. Okay, FaceTime. I just wanted to do a little plug for the human mind because not very long ago, this was not an option for missionaries to be able to connect with their families. And I was able to talk to my grandma in the hospital. I got to, on Thanksgiving, that was probably one of the hardest days I had there, was knowing that everybody's at home all together and I'm not there. I'm always at Thanksgiving. It's a huge thing. And so to not be there was just a really big deal. And so, but to be able to connect with them, and it felt like I was able to kind of bring my family with me to Thailand and kind of sharing my stories as they were happening. It was a huge blessing, and I know that it doesn't happen to a lot of people that we can stay as connected as I did. And so it was just so great to have my family pretty much with me the entire time. Okay, so this is kind of where it gets a little crazy. So this is the Scots. I met them this last summer at Big Ticket. A few of you know who the Boyds are, Aaron Boyd, Blue Tree. Oh, okay, that's telling me I need to hurry up. It's not good. Okay, so I met them this summer, and I had no idea that they lived in Thailand. I'm just like, oh, friends of the Boyds, hi, nice to meet you. Mom and Dad talked to them for a little while, and I didn't really think of it. And so I'm in Thailand. I'm like, I know that Christian Freedom International has some people here. I would like to meet with them and talk with them and just kind of tell them my situation, what they thought like a good direction for me to go is, and different opportunities that might be available. So I met with them, and they walked in the door. And I'm like, I know these people. What? And so I'm like, oh my gosh. We had this like little reunion thing, and we ended up. They have the school that's in Maysat, and so they invited me to come and stay with them for a week, and I got to go into Burma. And it was just honestly, it was like I went home and I just sat in my bed and cried for a little while. It was like so overwhelming how somebody that I met this summer in Michigan, and I run into them in Thailand. They live in Mae Sot, 6 hours away. They were only in Chiang Mai for that day. And it was like sent through a chain of emails, and it was just like overwhelming the way that God works sometimes. And so, yeah, 2.5 months in, I went to Mae Sot, and from the moment I stepped into the classroom, it was like I had felt really homesick up until then, and I was like this overwhelming rush of, oh, okay, I feel comfortable here. I could call this place home. Like, there was this just a crazy feeling when I met the students. This was the first day, and I sat in, and Joe was late to class, and the students were like, stand up, tell us about yourself. I'm like, oh, okay. So I did, and we ended up talking about a whole bunch of different stuff. They love to know about the U.S. and but the connection that I made within the first few hours with the students and the teachers was really, really crazy. Actually, it felt like I had known them for a really long time. And they invited me to go to and help out with Sweet December. I put on a Karen dress and I danced in front of an entire village. Yeah, not like 10, 15 people, like not like a tiny little village. This was like a decent sized village, okay? And there was like over 100 people. I'm like dancing, like twirling my hands, and I'm like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. Okay, and so, but it was so fun to be able to learn the dance with them. But so I got to celebrate Sweet December with them. And here's some of the students. This is before, this bottom picture is right before we went into Burma. And Moe is that right there. She is actually going to start teaching me Karen, which is it's a state, Karen state within Burma. That's where they live. So, and this is the pastor and his wife. I don't really know who the guy in the back was. He just kind of snuck into the picture, but yeah. So, and then there's John and Joe and me. We were the only ones that went into Burma that time. So, a really big thing. I don't have time to go into all of the crazy stories, but a huge thing that hit me like at the end of my trip. Well, okay, I'll tell you one more story because this was really intense. So, we're going into Burma, and we're like, I went the day before to get my paperwork done, and the officer's like, you're only gonna stay in Burma one day? I'm like, yeah. He's like, you don't need to extend your visa? I'm like, well, my visa ends one day. He's like, no, you're fine, pay the fine. Don't do your paperwork. I'm like, I saved you money. I'm like, oh, I don't know, I think I should do my paperwork. He's like, no, you guys save your money. I'm like, okay, this is an officer. Obviously, he knows what he's talking about, right? Yeah. No. So we got to the border. A whole bunch of stuff happened before, but we get to the bridge, and the truck is gone. Like, we have no vehicles there anymore, and I realized that I don't have my passport. I'm like, my passport has been on me this entire trip. The entire time that I didn't need it, it was with me, and now that I need it, it's not with me. So it took me 15 minutes to figure out that I didn't have it, to call someone at the school to see if it was in my bag, and it was. And then for me to go over to this group of Burmese men and ask if I could get a ride to the school on one of their motorbikes. So they didn't speak any English. They're like, Quake Low, where's Quake Low? I'm like, oh no, this is so bad. I'm like, I have to get my passport. If I don't get my passport, then I don't get to go into the country that I've been dreaming about going since I was 10. And I'm like, okay, I just have to do whatever it takes to get there. So they end up like talking amongst themselves for a little while. Like, quick low, okay. And it's like, he hands me a helmet, and Joe's like, doesn't even have the time to really think about if the situation is safe or not. I'm like, you know what? I am here for a reason, and I am going to do as much as I can to fulfill that. And so I'm like, I didn't even really, it was very much okay, God, I am leaping into your arms right now. So as I get on the back of this motorbike with a Burmese guy who speaks no English. So I did, and we start going, and I'm just the whole time, okay, please, God, give him direction, give him wisdom, like, I've only been here a week. I have no idea where the school is. Like, I don't know where to go. And so I'm just praying nonstop the whole time. We got a little lost, but we made it. So we got to the school, get my passport, on the way back, and I'm still, again, the prayers start all over. Please give you direction, give me direction. Like, if we get lost, somehow let me recognize something so we get to where we need to go. And Joe and John have already crossed the bridge and are waiting for me on the other side, and in Burma. And so I'm like, okay, it's okay. I'm just gonna get there. Well, he ends up turning around and starting going the other way, like the wrong direction. I know it's the wrong direction. I'm like, well, this is not, I did not plan for this. I'm like trying to, like, can you take me back to the bridge? But he's like, stop talking to me, I don't know what you're saying. And I'm like, oh, okay, it's okay. Well, then he pulls off the road and to this like completely deserted, like little village area. I'm like, now I'm starting to prepare myself. I'm like, okay, this is it. I'm not gonna make it. It's okay. I'm like, if I have fulfilled everything that you wanted me to do, God, then, you know, I'm okay with that. I'm ready to see you. And so he has me get off his motorbike, and I climb over this pile of stones. Obviously, we were not supposed to be in there because there's like things blocking the driver. And I get back on the motorbike on the other side, and we're driving through this little rundown, like, there's nobody around. I'm like, okay, still praying. I'm like, okay, I'm ready, I'm here. Like, just if it's your will to keep me safe, then keep me safe, but if it's not, that's okay. It's okay. And so then all of a sudden we pop out right at the bridge, and I'm like, he was taking a shortcut. Oh my gosh. It was such a relief. So anyway, I made it out of that situation. That was probably one of the scariest moments I had. But then back to the paperwork, we go into the Burma. Military decisions were made that morning where it wasn't safe for us to stay the night, so he said, come back at 6 p.m., you can't stay. Like, okay, we're on the way back. We didn't have the right paperwork done, so he said, why are you here? Like, you weren't supposed to come. And so we start getting yelled at by the Thai people. And I'm like, okay, so I made it through the motorbike guy, but now I'm gonna go to international prison. So I'm like, one situation into the next, but no, it was all good. The Burmese side didn't really pay attention to our passports as we went in, so it ended up being like forgiven, like, okay, you guys, next time, don't do that, but you're okay this time. And so, anyways, so, the end of my trip was, I started thinking, like, okay, what is the big thing that I've taken away from this? And, me personally, what am I going to do when I go home? And because obviously it's going to be so much different than it is here. And the big thing that kept coming up is, what does it actually mean to be a missionary? Do I have to go halfway across the world? And I was only there for 3 months, and so there's a lot more than what I can explain to you now. But each missionary, like I said, has a completely different job, and so the details of it are very confusing. And so, but I was like, okay, there's got to be a bigger definition than just going and doing things to people that don't understand what you're saying in a different language, right? So I'm like, okay, Google, what does being a missionary mean? And so a person sent on a religious mission, especially one sent to promote Christianity in a foreign country. So I want to focus on the beginning of that. A person sent on a religious mission. Okay, so what is our mission? I've been reading a book called A Hole in the Gospel, and I want to read you a part of it. This guy has his friend, and says, when my friend Jim Wallace was a seminary student at Trinity Evangelical Divinity School outside of Chicago, he and some of his classmates did a little experiment. They went through all 66 books of the Bible and underlined every passage and verse that dealt with poverty, wealth, justice, and oppression. Then one of Jim's fellow students took a pair of scissors and physically cut out every one of those verses out of the Bible. The result was a volume in tatters that barely held together. Beginning with a mosaic book through the books of history, the Psalms and Proverbs, the major and minor prophets, to the 4 Gospels, the books of Acts and Apostles, and into Revelation. So central were these themes to Scripture that resulting Bible was in shambles. When Jim would speak on these issues, he would hold his ragged book in the air and proclaim, "Brothers and sisters, this is our American Bible. It is full of holes. Each one of us might as well take our Bibles, a pair of scissors, and begin cutting out all the Scripture we pay no attention to, all the biblical texts that we just ignore." Jim's Bible was literally full of holes. I'm like, okay, the beginning of this process of figuring out what does it mean for me to be a missionary? It's like, what are the holes in my life, right? Like, there are so many things that are filled with selfishness, pride, self-righteousness, rooms that I've locked and have hung the do not enter sign on for God, our comfy places that we don't really, nobody go in there because that's ugly. Stay out here where it's nice and clean and put together. So I was listening to a message with Jesse and Mukadam, and the pastor was saying, how often do we bring strangers into our home and say, "Oh, make yourself at home. Just sit down, relax." But how often do we actually mean make yourselves at home, right? So if that person ended up starting to go through like our refrigerator, eating our food, going into the back rooms, the closet, open to the junk drawer, because we all have one, right? Like, it's like, oh, okay. Slow down. This is the off-limits areas, because this shows how much of a unresponsible or busy, but unresponsible person I am to take care of all of these things. And I did make time to clean up this area, so you can kind of just stay here. That'd be really awesome. Otherwise, you're gonna have to leave, right? So, I was like, wow. Okay, yeah, we do that to people and we do that to God too. Like, okay, God, come into my life. I want you to be everything. But it's like as soon as he starts cracking open those doors where we've just shoved a bunch of stuff that, I don't want to deal with that today. I know that I have this thing wrong with me, but we're just going to kind of put that in the corner and we'll get to it later. Well, as soon as he starts opening those doors, guess what he's going to do? He's going to go in. He's going to be like, hey, look, we got to find a place for this because it doesn't belong here. And it's embarrassing. Honestly, it's embarrassing, the stuff that we have hidden in our junk drawers and in our closets. And when we say truly, like we are honestly meaning, say, God, come into my life, it's like, okay, here's the key. Here's the key to the back room, to the attic, to the shed. Okay, let's go together. Let's figure out where are the holes in my life. I'm really excited because that's a little bit of what church is for, right? We come here and we get a message and it's like, okay, where are the things in your life that you have to work on, right? What are the things that I need to be working on in my life? And let's get pumped up and where we can go out and during the week, like, okay, I have some things, we need to sit down, have a little chat with God. How do we figure this out, right? We can get pumped up at church, then go out and go back to our daily lives. But does going back to our daily lives mean that we can just, oh yeah, I had to fix these things, but I have to go to work, and I'm just going to go to work and come back from work and have dinner with my family and wake up the next morning, go to work, and maybe we'll build a snowman and just kind of, living your daily life just as normally you would. But no, it doesn't stop there. It doesn't stop at church. You come to church, you get pumped up, and then you go back out, and when you go to work, we as Christians are the lights that shine for Jesus. God uses us in ways that we don't even know, right? So we are the light of Jesus in our workplaces. Our mission, God has given us a mission, right? Each one and every one of us. We can be missionaries. You don't have to go across the world to be a missionary. He's given us each a mission where we go in and not at church, because church is here. We come here to fellowship with each other, to get pumped up, to learn more about God, so then we can have a nice shot in the arm to go back out and share Jesus with everybody in our daily lives. And so there are some of you that have done a really good job of this here at Grace Christian, where it's like, wow, you guys are such good examples. But then there's the rest of us, me included, where we need missionaries in our community. It's not just Haiti and not Africa, not Thailand that needs missionaries, but Gladwin needs missionaries too. And so as a community of people, we need to be coming together and and praising Jesus together in our communities. So I was reading in Luke 19, there is some crowds of people that have come together, right? And they are praising Jesus. And and the Pharisees are standing on the side like, are you going to let them praise you like this? And Jesus' response is awesome. It's like, if they keep quiet, the stones along the road will burst into cheers. And I'm like, oh, okay. So if us as Christians are not going out into our communities, if we're not praising Jesus in our daily lives, the stones are going to cry out for him? How embarrassing. Like, what if the stones actually started praising Jesus? What does that mean for me? I would just be so ashamed of not of necessarily you guys, but of me too, because I know that it gets lost. Jesus gets lost in the stuff. He gets stuffed in a room, and you lock the door, and you're like, oh, I'll take care of him later when I take care of all the rest of my junk, right? Well, no, you can't do that. And so James 1:22 says, be doers of the word and not hearers only, deceiving ourselves. And Matthew 5:13-16 says, you are the salt of the earth, but if the salt has lost its taste, how shall its saltiness be restored? It's no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled on under people's feet. You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden, nor do people light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a stand, and it gives light to all in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father who is in heaven. It's not easy. I'm not saying that it's going to be easy to go out and literally be living every day, every moment to glorify God, because it's not. Some of us are introverts, right? It's not easy to have those awkward conversations with your coworkers or little kids that come up to you, or your kids as friends, and it's awkward, it's scary. I now spending 3 months in Thailand, it's just as scary to step on a plane and go and live in a foreign country as it is to stay here in your own home. Because the conversation's still there, you still have to work with people, you still have to have relationships. And so, my last little bit is, again, as I'm talking to you, it's like, wow, okay, so many of these things I have to work on so much in my own life. I'm 18, I have already done some things that I feel like I'm not qualified to be a missionary. I'm not qualified to go and share Jesus with people because I've got stuff. If I go and am saying, oh, you don't do this, Jesus loves you, well, would I be a hypocrite because of all of these things that I've done? No, Jesus comes to us wherever we are. He forgives, and he uses us in whatever situation we're in whatever place we are with him. Even if we're like on a little bit of a, I don't know where my relationship with God is, he still finds ways to use us, even if we're not willing to be used. It's crazy. So yes, I personally feel like God is calling me to share his love to those outside of the States. But while I'm here, I'm going to be a missionary in my own town. I want to be available for God to use me in any way, in every way possible. Please, guys, I'm begging you, let's be missionaries. Find out what your mission is supposed to be, and let's do it. Be all in, 110%. Leave the walls of church every week, ready to put on the full armor of God, stepping into the battlefield together as a body of believers, and to go and fight the good fight right in Gladwin. You don't have to go somewhere else to be a missionary. So, yeah.